Why child molesters get killed instantly in jail. This is Nelson Sanderson, a convicted child molester. Sanderson was serving 2 life sentences at Century Correctional Institution in Escambia, Florida. However, on August 17th, his greatest fear was realized when he was killed by another inmate. The specifics surrounding his death, including the identity of the perpetrator, remain undisclosed as authorities continue their investigation. Sanderson's crimes were heinous. He had molested 2 young children under the age of 12. A warrant was issued for his arrest in July 2012, but he fled to Nicaragua to evade capture. He spent 4 years hiding in Central America, hoping that the authorities would forget about him. However, U.S. Marshals finally caught up with him in April 2016. He was arrested and deported back to Florida to face the charges against him. During Sanderson's trial in October 2016, his wife, Charlotte, testified that he was deeply afraid of dying in prison. She explained that due to his age and deteriorating health, he was unlikely to survive longer than 6 months behind bars. While Sanderson's death may have offered a sense of closure to his victims and their families, the Florida Department of Corrections acknowledged a lapse in its duty of care. In an official statement, the department committed to ensuring accountability among inmates and reaffirmed its responsibility to maintain a safe and secure environment for all individuals in its custody. The correctional institution has introduced measures to prevent similar incidents, including options like protective custody and placement in high-security facilities. Additionally, they have partnered with the Federal Bureau of Prisons to implement the Sex Offender Management Program, SOMP, aimed at better monitoring and managing incarcerated sex offenders. The program includes a dedicated facility exclusively for sex offenders, designed to offer psychological support and rehabilitation before their reintegration into society. It functions as a form of therapy-focused incarceration. Child molesters, in particular, may request a transfer to this program to avoid violence from other inmates. However, gaining entry into the program from the general prison population is often a challenging and selective process. Despite these measures, the program and related policies have helped curb the widespread violence and targeted killings of child sex offenders within the prison system. However, placement in protective custody or transfer to a high-security facility does not guarantee safety. High-security prisons often house extremely dangerous individuals, including psychopaths and violent offenders. In such environments, sex offenders may still face significant threats from other inmates. Who, then, takes justice into their own hands? And why does it appear that convicted child molesters are so often met with sudden and unexplained deaths behind bars? Child molesters are often viewed with even less respect than former police officers in prison, facing widespread disdain. Life behind bars is especially harsh for them, as crimes against children are considered unacceptable even among other inmates. Some prisoners believe they're serving a form of vigilante justice by targeting sex offenders. A federal study conducted between 2007 and 2015 revealed that although male sex offenders comprise less than 20% of the prison population, they account for roughly 30% of all in-prison homicides. Sex offenders are often at high risk of being slashed, stabbed, or killed while in prison. However, recent policies and programs implemented by the Federal Bureau of Prisons have played a significant role in reducing the level of violence they face. While the investigation into Sanderson's murder continues and the perpetrators remain unidentified or in hiding, another prison has seen an inmate come forward and confess to a double homicide. This is Jonathan Watson. Watson is serving a life sentence at Corcoran State Prison in California for a 2009 murder conviction. Known for his violent nature, it didn't take long before he lashed out again, this time taking the lives of 2 fellow inmates who had been accused of sexually abusing children. In January 2020, 41-year-old Jonathan Watson confessed to killing 2 fellow inmates using a cane. The victims, 48-year-old David Bobb and 62-year-old Graham DeLuis Conti, were both serving life sentences for aggravated sexual assault against children. In a letter to a Northern California newspaper, Jonathan Watson confessed that he attacked the two inmates in response to their behavior in the prison dormitory. According to Watson, neither man showed any remorse for their crimes. He claimed that one of them even boasted about his offenses and deliberately provoked other inmates by watching children's television shows, behavior that Watson found especially disturbing. The day before the deadly assault, Watson allegedly informed a prison counselor that he was experiencing rising violent urges and requested a transfer to a higher security facility. However, his warning was ignored, leaving him to simmer in frustration and rage. The next day, Watson acted on his violent impulses. He grabbed a cane and struck one of the men repeatedly in the head until the victim lay still. Afterward, he left the dorm to alert a guard and turn himself in. On the way, however, he encountered the second man and assaulted him in the same manner, leaving him unresponsive. Watson later stated that he believed he was doing others a service by eliminating individuals he saw as predators. Prison officials have denounced Watson's actions, emphasizing that violence is never acceptable, regardless of the circumstances. However, outside the prison, public opinion has been more divided. Many have expressed sympathy for Watson, suggesting he was driven to the breaking point by the disturbing behavior of the men he killed. Some have even argued that the victims received the fate they deserved. Regardless of personal views on the killings, the reality is that child molesters often face extreme hostility in prison. They are typically regarded as the lowest in the inmate hierarchy due to the nature of their crimes, targeting innocent children who should be safeguarded, not harmed.
Jeffrey Dahmer was born on May 21, 1960 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. As a child, he seemed like any other kid, but as he got older, things started to change. By the time he graduated high school in 1978, he had developed a strange fascination with dead animals and was struggling with heavy drinking. Only weeks after finishing school, Dahmer committed his first murder. He picked up a hitchhiker named Stephen Hicks. After a night of drinking together, Dahmer hit Hicks with a dumbbell when Hicks tried to leave. He then hid Hicks' body and later buried the remains in his backyard. Despite admitting to horrible acts, including cannibalism, Dahmer claimed he was looking for forgiveness, calling his actions a holocaust. Years went by before Dahmer would kill again. After serving in the army, he returned home and fell deeper into alcoholism. By the mid-1980s, he was luring men to his apartment to drug, assault, and kill them. His methods became more brutal, involving dismemberment and cannibalism. On July 22, 1991, Dahmer's crimes finally came to an end when one of his intended victims, Tracy Edwards, escaped and alerted the police.
This guy is so nice, and all of a sudden, it's like he was pulling knives and handcuffs and all on me,
What'd you do? What'd you say to him?
I asked him what the problem was, that it's not necessary to do this,
What'd he say?
He told me at that point if I wouldn't do what he said, he would kill me,
When authorities entered Dahmer's apartment, they found a horrifying scene filled with photos of dismembered bodies and human remains. Dahmer was arrested and later confessed to killing 17 young men. His trial began in January 1992. He claimed he was insane, but the jury found him sane and guilty.
I didn't ever want freedom. Frankly, I wanted death for myself. This was a case to tell the world that I did what I did not for reasons of hate. I hated no one. I knew I was sick or evil or both. Now I believe I was sick.
At the trial during the emotional victim impact statement, Rita Isbell, the mother of one of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims, broke down and rushed toward Dahmer. However, she was restrained by the officers present.
Whatever your name is, Satan, I'm mad. This is how you act when you are out of control. I don't want to ever see my mother have to go through this again. Never, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, I hate you, mother. I hate you. Something's out of control. Don't Jeffrey, I kill you. God damn it. Look at me, motherfucker. I kill you.
On February 17, 1992, he was sentenced to 15 life sentences. Dahmer was killed in prison on November 28, 1994, closing a dark chapter in criminal history.